Alright, I apologize for the wind, but it's actually kind of nice out. What we got going on here, I'm going to take you through a little instructional version of how I do my stuff. We never start from the inlet. Okay, this is going to be the inlet. You can see where they tapered it down. And turn our vise around, and we're always going to start from the outlet. We're going to go from the outlet that way. That way it still concaves with a bit of an angle. We make sure that our outlet is always bigger than our inlet. So what I got here is the rubber bung, where you take the round sandpaper roll, you tighten this here, and as you tighten it, it's going to pull that down, it's going to smash it, it's going to get wider. Well, another neat thing that we can do is we can take this, and because it's rubber, the sandpaper, the back of it likes to stick to it when it gets a little warm. It only takes a couple of spins, and you can see the reason we're starting from the back side here is because we're never going to really hit that with our sandpaper. We're always going to hit mostly the inner bit right here. Actually start with the wheel. And the wheel is going to come in here, and because it is definitely a smaller diameter than the rubber is, I can get you exact measurements in the annotations. I'm just going to take out most of the chunks on the inside here, and that's where a lot of the scarring was coming from, and we'll take care of that later. Alright, we'll see how well I can do this one-handed. This is a fairly low speed. Kind of stay out of the way because it does kick aluminum all over the place. I mean, you can kick it up, but the problem is that once it gets hot, it doesn't really chunk the metal off near as well. We're talking about two metals against each other, they are going to get hot. But look at that. And you see how we haven't touched our lip at all. It's exactly what we're after. Fairly even distribution. We're making sure that we hold the drill up. We don't just let the weight of the drill hold down. But we don't want to hold it upwards either. We're not trying to put it at a particular angle. We want to try to hold it even. And not do that. That's what you don't want to do. And that's why we go nice and slow. This is also why you start on the back side. Because that way if you accidentally open it up a little bit, you can deal with that. But if you open the inlet too much, you're definitely going to start causing yourself problems. You can see I took a little break here because it's just getting hot. When it gets hot, you can see it almost has like a melted look to it. And that's because indeed that's what's happening. It's not really scarring it and chunking it off anymore. It's just kind of getting hot and scraping along, gouging the metal out, taking little bits at a time. So we're going to go ahead and let it cool down for a minute, and then we'll come back at it. So as always, there is more than one way to skin a cat. If we're impatient, which I often am, clean the aluminum off our file here. I'm just gonna take it and just start running it around. Beauty about this is, you know, definitely something you have to monitor. You have to watch what you're doing, but you have the ability to completely shape the contour. One thing I have noticed, and take note of this yourself, is that as you're going up, a lot of people will actually put more pressure coming up and around the sides than they will be pushing down. And so a lot of times it'll get oblonged. And so you want to try to make sure you keep it as round as possible. And that's a lot of why I also use the round stock, the straight round bar. I use that wrapped in different, types of sandpaper, and that helps me get the shapes back up. But basically, as long as you're not touching this lip to the front lip there, and you can see, and here I'll show you what I mean. You can see the angle that you're grinding. Really what you need to pay attention to. Make sure you keep it completely round. See, because I scraped that out, now I need to go back and fix it. But really what I'm doing is I'm just going to take this big sharp lip down, and then I'm going to come back at it with this, which actually has, a proper diameter to it. And then we're going to come back and re-round it back out. So this is about 5 minutes or so later. I've knocked down pretty much almost the entire inner rim there. Use that guy right there. Hog it back out some more. And then we'll check our diameter with the calipers. So I did flip it around the other way. Whoops, sorry about that. As you can see, we've almost completely knocked the lip down. We got just that tiny little bit on the inside. So once we get that down, then we can start with the final boring. We finished it. This is about 2 minutes after the last clip. I do suggest going different directions, because when you change directions, it takes these grooves that are being, eventually cut out in one way, and it just cuts them back and forth against each other. See, we're getting much closer to a similar diameter. I'll get out the calipers here soon, measure it, start checking stuff. So I just did a bore check, and right now we're at a 1.81 millimeter difference between the two bores.
Clean it out. Right, so we're almost 39. And here, yeah, 40, should be about 40 and a half.
Alright, so here's what I'm gonna do. I take one of these, I rip it down the middle here, I wrap it around this, as you can see, like this guy here. I'll just wrap it around it, and then make sure that it turns in the direction that I'm putting it in. So once I get it set up, I will give you an idea of what I'm working with. Put it in here like this. Make sure we're spinning the right direction. We're not. Now we are. See what I mean? It gets hot and then it locks it. This is 150. So it's very coarse.
Alright, let's just get a look at what we did already, because it's extremely significant. Look at that. Take 2.
See a huge difference, and that's just that little bit we're running in. But we need to be able to fit this thing in here like a hot dog in a hallway. See? That'll be what it's like when it's over. Right now we're not too bad. The fact that it can even sit in there, this is definitely better than when I was doing that one right there. So we'll be back after I get some more of this done. Alright, this version turned out way better and easier than yesterday's. All I did was use the 150 on the, what is it? I think it's an 1.5 inch wheel. Or 1.5 inch, yeah. 1.5 inch, okay. Now the beauty of it is that it pretty much matches, okay. But I want it to be that little bit more. So, what we can do is we can take and tighten this nut that's on the back here. It'll widen it out a little bit. We put our sandpaper back on there, and then we blow it through one more time. And I mean, I can't believe how good that looks. That tiny little deal right there, but we'll get that fixed. We're still at 150. We've got all the way down to 2,000 we can go. So, yeah boy. And that wind is ridiculous. Loving it, considering it's 90-something degrees outside. And I'm in a mostly non-air conditioned at all garage. So, yeah. Alright, here's what we're doing. You can see I have this lips kind of rounded off, and this one's still kind of sharp. So I'm going to round this off just a little bit. This, obviously, this one right here is the most important part. But we're going to round this off a little bit as well. Just kind of contour it to match the little bore that we made. There is some pitting. But I'm also not done. I have not come at this yet with anything that's still the 150. So we've got 400 all the way up to 2,000 that we're gonna get to next. So we're gonna clean those little pits out, which actually leads me to something. Is be careful about buildup, because sometimes when it builds up, it actually collects, and when it gets really hot in there, it'll melt into a tiny little piece. Let me see if I can find an example here. There we go. See that? That's where the aluminum actually gathered. It got really hot, melted into a little clump, and that's what it'll do. That tiny little bit of pitting there. And I mean, that stuff is so small that I can't even get my nail to grab onto it. But those pits really, and the lens is helping us see it. There we go. And please, please, please. At this stage, we're talking about a lot of fine dust particles, and it's aluminum dust. eye protection, something that pulls against your eyes and creates a decent little seal. Doesn't have to be 100%, but also something, you know, dusk mask. This one is being pulled against my face. Only just down here is there a little bit where it's separated from my, you know, from my skin. So let's get this done. Like, I think this one here, yeah, we got a 2000 right here, and I don't think we're quite ready for that yet. We got a 400 as well, and I think that's what we're going to move on to next. We'll knock down that wall, and then we'll go from there. So I want to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. I take the round stock. This is 400. You can see I'm just wiping some of that dust away. And in here, we still have our very sharp lip. And I'm just going to take it and run it at a little bit of an angle. Let's see here. I could use the 150, but it puts a lot of really deep scratches into the metal, and I don't really want to come back after that later. You can just rotate this. You can see, I mean, it's taken off a substantial amount. This also makes it to where we're not removing too much material at one time, not creating any unneeded ridges in the boring. And as you can see, with just that little bit of work, we already have a lot of rounding happening here. This isn't near as sharp as it was before. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue on that, and we'll have it more rounded off like this in no time. You'll see a technique that works really well is running rounded like this. You just turn the paper as you go. There you have it. Now that I have the edges knocked down, I'm going to come in myself and we're just going to kind of round things out by eye. It this way allows the sandpaper to contour to the metal a little bit, so you're going to get more of a genuine roundness. Plus your skin gives with the shape, and so the pressure that you're applying is also going to be a bit more rounded. You can just already see that being applied as we go around here. And again, what we're doing is we're smoothing it out so that when the air exits the throttle body, it's not hitting any type of lips, and if it does, it's a very smooth transition. We know that air usually travels through the inside, but that's at low or at high speed. At low speed, it's still going to travel on the outside a bit. So we just want to make any transitions that the air may hit, considering that fuel will be coming down into here. We want to make sure there's no unnecessary turbulence being caused. Our idea is literally spacing it. We're not trying to create any special weird fuel vortexes or anything like that. Remember I was telling you guys that this stuff is sticky? Look at this. Yeah, it's kind of nice. So I definitely recommend getting the 3M stuff. Now we're going to take, we're just going to jump right to our 2000.
Not bad. Not bad. That's probably what we'll go with that.
Just to show you guys here, our final measurements. Come to the back side, we're going to zero it out. Basically 164. It closed a little when I pulled it. 164 there. So that's this side. Now let's check this side here. I'm using the flat surface right here to keep it flat. Same thing. 163.9. I'm sure it's 164. But you get the idea.